The opponent schedule for the next 4 seasons has been released. Next year, Vanderbilt's going to have to be Road Warriors. Here we go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So we've got an action-packed show here. Clark Lea had his press conference. We're going to react to a lot of what he said. We're going to talk about the 9-game opponent schedule has been released and it's been released for the next 4 seasons. So we'll take a look at what's there and who's there. But of course, Vanderbilt's going to be facing off against their old defensive coordinator, Nick Howell. The defensive game plan is going to be very, very important. That's going to be the most vital part of this entire week against Utah State, and determining whether or not determining how this weekend's going to go. But yeah, let's get right into this schedule release though, because this is within the SEC, like a lot of things are happening with this, and there's a lot of excitement being drummed up over the SEC going to 9 games, the 3 annual opponents, and it's going to be like 5 home games one year and 4 the next. It's going to be kind of an interesting schedule for everybody. And it's going to be, it's going to take some getting used to for the rest of the SEC world. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And looking at the schedule, I think, and here it is, here's the next 4 years. You might have to zoom in to see those 4 years or go onto the SEC's X account and look at this. But I've laid out what 2026 looks like. That's the most recent, the 3 annual that we talked about on the last episode: Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. Honestly, my first reaction when it comes to this schedule, now we don't know dates and we don't know when, or we don't know the mixture of the home and away and what the non-conference is going to look like necessarily, and that might change, and there might be some additions, and there might be some things where, okay, games are put in certain places where you're like, oh no, that's worrisome, or hey, that's a pretty good stretch of games. But what we do know at this moment is we know who's going to be at home and we know who's going to be on the road. And for Vanderbilt, the home games, this home slate, even though it is only 4 games, this home slate is strong. Tennessee, Bama, Arkansas, and Ole Miss. I really like this home slate. I mean, Tennessee, obviously, the annual rivalry. That game's always fun. That game's always electric. You keep Bama on the schedule. So what's going to happen with them next year? What's going to happen with Vanderbilt next year? That's going to be an interesting game as well. And depending on what happens next week with Alabama, this game could be extremely electric. Hoping that Vanderbilt gets that 2nd win in a row over Alabama. That would be kind of earth shattering there. Arkansas, you have to think they're gonna blow things up over there and redo their entire athletic department with a new AD, and of course replacing Sam Pittman as head coach. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what they look like coming into the season. That's probably the most intriguing one because there's so many unknowns with that game. And of course, Ole Miss, that was the former permanent crossover when you had the divisions. And that's who Vanderbilt would play every single year. And that game turned into quite the rivalry. They always played Ole Miss tough. They won a few games that they shouldn't have. They lost a few games that they shouldn't have to Ole Miss. But to see this game back on the schedule, it's not an annual opponent, but it is back on the schedule. You will get a home and away with them in this 4-year stretch. So that I'll take that. And you're going to play everybody every 4 years. So it's not like it's going away like it has been with the other teams. Like you play 2 games and then you don't play again for almost a decade. So that, for that, going to 9 games, I think allows you to play more conference games, which is what people want to see. So that's a phenomenal home slate, right? And if I'm a season ticket holder and you supplement those with some other marquee non-conference matchups. Maybe you supplement that with a fifth home game that's a quality opponent, and then you get your money games, you get your wins, like your Georgia States or the Charleston Southerns of the world. So that's a very, very interesting home slate. I'm really, really digging the strength of this. I mean, that's going to get fans here, and hopefully with the success of this season, it's still early, so you got to hope that there's some success here along the way with Diego Pavia. They can create some momentum because Pavia is going to be gone next year. You got to hope that they can create some momentum and either elevate Blaise Berlowitz to play at a level to where Vanderbilt can win sustainably, or go get the next guy in the portal, whoever that may be. You find somebody that fits this system. I think you had the luxury of being able to be a little choosy with the system that you play. I think a lot of guys like Diego Pavia would want to come to Vanderbilt. I feel like that would be an option. I like Jack Elliott on the roster. You got to develop him. I don't know where the next quarterback's going to come from, but you have to have faith from last season to at this point in this season with Tim Beck and his offensive designs, the development of the offensive line, the development of weapons, because like the receiving core was probably the biggest unknown in the entire conference. Like we didn't know who was going to be what. We knew Eli Stowers, but he's a tight end. I mean, he sort of counts, but like as a wide receiver position, didn't know who was going to start. Like Junior Sherrill, yeah, we knew he was going to start, but like what was he going to do? Right. So this momentum is going to build into the excitement, like what you're doing with the team developmentally, what you're doing as a program developmentally, what you're doing in an NIL realm, what you're doing recruiting wise, what you're doing drumming up support in the city of Nashville. Like I think if you can have a really special season, I'll put this slate up again. I think if you can have a really successful season, that has to drum up some excitement in the city of Nashville. That has to get fans excited about Vanderbilt football. I'm seeing a lot more Vanderbilt logos around town. I'm seeing a lot more people, hearing a lot more people talking about Vanderbilt and how excited they are that they're doing well. So maybe those fans will start to come to the games and try to create a true home environment. Now with Tennessee, that's a tough one to create a home environment with because the state is still very, very, very orange. And it's going to take a long time to kind of even that out, or at least put a gate around Nashville at the very least. But, there's just so many Tennessee fans around. It's a massive fan base, lots of tradition there. That's going to be tough to beat. It's just going to have to be, you're going to have to just try. I don't know what the solution is there, but you just got to try to outnumber them in the stadium, which that's always a tough order. It's always been Neyland East in the history of it. And until that changes, I still think it's going to be that way. So that's a game you got to contend with. That's an annual opponent that you got to get some control in that rivalry, in that matchup. And people that say it's not a rivalry, still is a rivalry, even though Tennessee's been on the winning side of it for quite a while or quite frequently. You've got to be able to find a way to kind of get into that rivalry and try to even it out. So you got to get a win against Tennessee this year. You've got to get that under control. Alabama, that's another tough one. A lot of Bama fans here in Nashville. Arkansas, I don't know what they're going to look like travel-wise. Ole Miss, they travel well. But, I mean, again, if you have a team that wins 9, maybe 10 games, like if you can win 10 games in that 10th game being against Tennessee at Neyland, like maybe you do have a chance at being more pro Vandy crowd instead of like just playing 12 road games. They're showing out for the non-conference games. So, maybe there's something there. All right. Now, your away games: Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Georgia, and Kentucky. So Auburn, Mississippi State is your other two annual opponents. So you'll have two of your annual opponents at home next year, which is good. But it's you go back to the swamp. So you got 3 old SEC East road games. You got Florida, Georgia, Kentucky. Those you want to talk about tough road games. Florida likely going to be firing Billy Napier, so they're going to look different. They're going to be reinvigorated. It's going to be interesting to kind of see who they hire in that matchup. And so you look at it and say, all right, well, it's gonna, the Swamp is a very tough place to play. Vanderbilt's had some good games down there. They've almost come out with some wins. I think they've taken Florida down to the wire on several occasions, and Florida finds ways to win that game. So that's going to be interesting. They're kind of down right now. I don't know if their roster is really talented. Some of their operations outside of just football, just kind of the ancillary stuff around the program is really good. But it's a matter of, for Florida, because it's inevitable. Billy Napier is I think he's dead man walking here. I think it's going to be a new situation down there in Florida. Is that new situation going to launch quick enough? Or can Vanderbilt go down there and steal a road win in the Swamp, which that doesn't happen. They did it again. They did it at Williams-Brice this year, so it's possible. But again, it's going to be a tough road matchup. Georgia, they're the best team in the conference. I mean, that's, if you go down there and win that one, you've arrived as a program. Like that's that. I mean, people don't go down to Athens and win. They've only lost one home game, I think, in the Kirby Smart era out since 2017, and that was South Carolina in 2019. Like they just don't lose at home. And that's insane. So that's you have to kind of strike that one up as a loss. And then Kentucky on the road. I think you've gotten pretty good firm control over Kentucky. I think you're going to see, hopefully that happens again this year. That's a home game for you. So you kind of get control of that matchup. Maybe you go into Kentucky and have some success there. So overall, this is the fun part about playing in the SEC, honestly. And even if you're Vanderbilt, which traditionally hasn't been a thing, like you've got some interesting road games. You've got some things you can do in the conference. You're better at all the aspects around your program. You're better as an entire operation than you've ever been. So this is an exciting time, I think, to kind of see where you're at against some new opponents. Now, you don't get, like I said, you don't get Arkansas, you don't get Oklahoma, you don't get Texas in any of these matchups, but this is an interesting slate, and this is fun for the fans. This home slate is going to be exciting as a conference home slate. Now, what they do in the non-conference to make it more exciting is going to be fun as well. So, however, I'm happy with the 9-game schedule. I think it's better for revenue. I think it's better for competition. Like iron sharpens iron. I don't think Vanderbilt's not scared of any of these opponents. Clark Lee's made that well known. Like they're going to, they are physically dominant up front. That's how they're playing right now. They're physically dominant up front. If that can withstand throughout the rest of the season, well, after this week, it's all conference games. If you can withstand that, if you can get Alabama, you get LSU, you get Texas, you get Missouri, you get Auburn, you get Kentucky, you get Tennessee, you push them around up front, you put a lot of pressure on them. And games are won at the line of scrimmage in this league, and we all know that. So again, these home games are great. These road games are phenomenal. You go back to the Swamp, you go back to Athens, you go back to Kentucky, and of course, you visit Mississippi State, Auburn as part of your annual opponent. So I'm excited about it. You should be too. Again, it's a new era in Vanderbilt. No, I don't think you should look at any of this with any sort of dread. Like maybe in years past, you would look at it and go, "Yeah, we're cooked." Not anymore. I don't have that. I don't have that mindset. If you still have that mindset, then just go watch something else. That's what I advise. Anyway, Clark Lee had a lot of great things to say about Utah State. He's very, very concerned about their quarterback situation, how they're going to defend Bryson Barnes. He's dynamic. They do a lot of great things offensively with Bronco Mendenhall's squad. We're going to talk about that in depth next. Talking about Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention on how we craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. All that's great on any Mazda vehicle. And with all-wheel standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence. through any season, through almost any season. And for winners in Nashville, maybe that's where you want to go. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, also talking about Monarch Money, man. This is, finances. It's a hot topic, man. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401k properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending. And finally, feel in control of all your money without ever touching a single spreadsheet. So for those of you who don't like Excel, there you go. So I have a goal of increasing my savings rate. And Monarch Money is going to help me do that, because it's going to help me see where I'm spending and where I can cut and where I can kind of, I can take a little bit off here. Okay, I can save a little bit here. Maybe I don't need that subscription, because I don't have a whole lot of like investment accounts. So it's more about just finding money here and putting it here and, just moving money around. That's kind of where I'm at. But anyway, don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube as well. Like, subscribe. We keep it free if you subscribe. I'm almost to 1,000, so I need 119 more of you. The countdown begins. The countdown to 1,000 begins. I know it seems kind of petty, but anyway, I don't care. You guys are great. You guys have been great. The comments have been great. The views have been up. The excitement I feel like is at an all-time high for the program. So let's keep that momentum moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, I think this defensive game plan for Vanderbilt has got to be vital, because, I think this is your first ever matchup in program history with Utah State. And honestly, and I don't say this very often, I don't take this word lightly, but this game can be tricky. This game can be scary. Now, am I scared? No, because I'm a coach. I'm not scared of any game, right? I think Vanderbilt can go out there, physically dominate in the trenches on both sides of the ball and win this game and take control of this game. However, I think this is a great game as far as quarterback management, because you get Bryson Barnes, who is very, very dynamic. And I feel like he's a lot like, he's tough to categorize because he's not quite like Lenore Sellers style-wise. I'm talking about style-wise. I'm not talking about talent-wise. I'm talking about style-wise, how they play the game. Okay, don't jump on me, South Carolina fans. All right. But Bryson Barnes, I think, is a dynamic quarterback. They really make it go. 635 yards against Air Force. That's nuts, dude. And here's the scouting report again. They lost only to Texas A&M. Bronco Mendenhall has been known, and Clark Lee has made everyone well aware of this as well. He made mention of this several times. Bronco Mendenhall is a great program developer. He's a guy that comes in and can turn things around relatively quickly, just because how organized he is, how structured he is, how well he kind of knows the pulse of what the roster looks like and what it needs to kind of get that jolt forward. Whether he'll win a bunch of games there in his first year, I don't know how likely that is. He's definitely, beating Air Force, I think, is definitely a step in the right direction. I think it's put the rest of the Mountain West Conference on notice. But I question their depth a little bit. And I think early on, they're going to be tough to contend with. I think they're going to move the ball fairly well. I think their first drive is going to be successful because I think Bryson Barnes, and I think this offense is great at finding space and creating that space for the quarterback. And Clark Lee made explicit mention of that when asked about, how well does the quarterback, he was asked this specific question, actually. He said, the question was, it seems like the Utah State's quarterback can run the ball well. Have you guys fared quite well against, mobile quarterbacks? What do you see in him as a guy? Of course, how have you guys best prepared to defend against a mobile quarterback? He's a little different, there's designed run for him. So what it looks like is, I think a lot of things they do well with him is a lot of things what Vanderbilt does well with Diego Pavia. It's using formations, using motions, and using different eye candy to create that space. Like the jet read that they do, and sometimes it's a read, sometimes it's a true read, sometimes it's the illusion of a read, but it opens up space and it creates things for Diego Pavia. Very similar situation for Utah State. They use deception, they use cross motion, they even use counter. They even run the jet counter to the pullers to kind of create that false key where your linebackers just sitting there like, whoa. So what they do is they create confusion in your defense, and that's where that space opens up, and that's where they're able to take advantage. So for Vanderbilt, it quite simply comes down to, okay, we're going to need guys to tackle in space. We're going to need guys to, and missing tackles is never a great idea. But I think Vanderbilt's been able to swarm to the ball. So like you get one missed tackle, but half a second later, the cavalry's there and they're there to finish off the play. But, I think in this scenario, you're going to have guys that are going to have to tackle the space, because if like you break one tackle, now it's 10, 12 yards before anybody can get to you because, hey, you got this key and he's got to run through a bunch of trash to get there. Or like you got a guy coming off a block on a receiver, or like a receiver runs a guy off and he has to come back downhill. Like there's a lot of things there's a lot of moving parts here. And it's going to take all 11 guys being on the same page, truly being on the same page, to be able to successfully defend this offense. Now, eventually, talent and depth will take over, and I think Vanderbilt will take control of this game. But early on, I think to quell any sort of momentum, you have to tackle well early, tackle well in space early, attack space. Don't let him close up those. Don't let him close down that space. Don't let him eat up that space. Don't let him get downfield. Defenders have to be a little more aggressive in a controlled manner to close that gap, close that space, and go. Because if you can stop Bryson Barnes, I think a lot of what they do goes off of what he can do. They're built a lot like Vanderbilt, similarly, in the way they want to attack you. And so that's another advantage I think Vanderbilt has, is they know really they're experts in how to defend themselves. Like if you watch practice, like our defense is really good against our offense because they just know and they're just disciplined. And, it's one of those things where it kind of gives you like false fear for the offense. Like, oh God, our offense is going to suck. But really our defense is just experts at stopping them. They're hell for everybody else. So that's going to be an important factor. Tackling well in space is going to be even more vital than it usually is against a dynamic offense like Utah State. So, speaking of dynamic offenses, how is this offense going to attack old DC Nick Howell? We're going to talk about that coming up next. First, I want to talk about FanDuel because, man, I'm excited, man. NFL season is rolling, dude. We're into week 4. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, what I love is FanDuel fits however you like to bet, whether you just like to bet player props, like is Derrick Henry going to fumble? No, in all seriousness, like Zay Flowers, 4.5 receptions, or like Travis Kelce, he's going to have 3.5 catches, or like Patrick Mahomes is going to be like 240.5 yards passing, like that kind of thing. Like you're betting on stats. He's going to complete. The over-under is going to be 18 passes. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers here. But that's the kind of thing I like. You can build same-game parlays with those things. Like you can build a bunch of player prop in a same game parlay, that's good. Or even jumping into live action as it unfolds. Like I did that with the Braves the other night. I jumped in the fifth inning, bet the money line just to get something on the books. It's fun. I bet low money. I'm not like a avid gambler. I just kind of do it for fun, to make some games more exciting. And it works. It makes you, it allows you to watch, and you watch like, okay, you're rooting for, like if I placed a bet on the Oakland A's, I'm going to root for the A's that night because I want to win that bet. Now, it's quick and easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays or whatever you're watching nonetheless. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Locked on Vandy, we are wrapping up the show here. We are quickly moving towards the end of the show. 9-game opponent schedule came out. It's electric. It's dynamic. I really like the way it sets up. It's a lot of old SEC East matchups, which is kind of nostalgic. So this game, I think they did well with these releases. This best conference in the world for a lot of reasons, and I think they nailed it again this year. I don't know what other people think, but I like it. I think they nailed it. It's just part of playing the SEC. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult no matter how you slice it and dice it. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be exciting for fans to watch quality football. And I think Vanderbilt's finally a quality football team. So speaking of quality football, I think this offense is playing at an all-time high. They're going against their old buddy, Nick Howell, who doesn't know this group as because he used to coach here. But he does know what Clark Lee wants to do and wants to accomplish. The question is he going to be able to do it? Now, Nick Howell, no matter how you spin it, was a disaster. I just think he was overwhelmed in this league. He's doing pretty well as the DC at Utah State. Maybe that's where he's supposed to be. He's with his old mentor, Bronco Mendenhall. He's comfortable. He's in a situation to where it's you're playing in the Mountain West, so it's not like rabid SEC fans that are calling for your head every single time that you give up a yard. That's just kind of SEC play. He kind of crumbled under the pressure. Wasn't a right fit for him. Wasn't good. I don't think Clark Lee supported him as well as he probably should have been. I don't think he knew to do that. I think when he gave him the defensive coordinator job, he said, "You be the defensive coordinator. I'm going to be the head coach." And I just think he got too detached. So it just wasn't a good situation. Now, Tim Beck is an elite offensive coordinator. All right. And I think for Vanderbilt, the defense is going to have its own struggles against Utah State because Bryson Barnes is a great quarterback. I think they have a great scheme offensively. So I think they're going to need some help from the offense. Now, last week, they needed help from the offense a little bit to kind of gain some momentum for them so the defense could really just kind of go out there and just kind of unleash. And that's what happened. Offense put up 70 points. Defense overall across the first, second, third teams gave up 21 points to Georgia State, which you don't love to see that number when you have a 70 in your column. And obviously there's some concerns there, but they had a dynamic receiver to defend. They had a couple of, Georgia State had some, they just didn't have enough. They had some pockets of really great players. They just didn't have enough of them. And Utah State probably eventually will learn that about Utah State as well. But for the offense, like they have a chance to really jump on this defense because I think up front they do such a great job of opening up run lanes, like massive run lanes, that they could really start to kind of crush and demoralize this defense. And I think this is where the game is going to be taken over by Vanderbilt. And then I think they're going to get a couple of stops defensively, and they're going to be able to build that lead and build that pad so that when Utah State starts to kind of get comfortable and figure some things out, it won't be such a dire situation. Like they might go down and like if Utah State gets the ball first, they're going to get points. If they get the ball second, it could go either way. But I think if they get it first, they're going to get points. Whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, I don't know, but they're going to get points. So this offense has got to be like last week. They've got to be ready out the gate to respond. And I think they will because Cody White, one of the best defensive coordinators in the SEC, didn't have many answers for Diego Pavia in this offense this year. They couldn't get to him. The ball was out quick. They were able to run the ball with great success. They were able to throw the ball on rhythm. Like, they were able to do a lot of great things offensively, and a lot of things that they weren't successful at doing a year ago against South Carolina. So it shows you kind of where you are. Like, if you use that example, it shows you kind of where you are as an offense, like as far as like from year 1 to year 2, like this, like you knew watching the first 2 games that they had made some pretty good strides, but you didn't quite understand what kind of leaps they made until you watched the South Carolina game, and then you watched the Georgia State game, because I mean, it just kept getting better and better and better. Like, it kept getting more efficient, it kept getting more in rhythm, it kept getting more effective. They were moving the ball at will against teams that had some pretty good talent. Great talent on South Carolina's side. They moved the ball. First drive, they just rammed it right down the field. So this offense has matured a great deal. And Diego Pavia, I think he's gonna have another successful outing. I think this offense is going to move the ball fairly easy. And this being the first ever matchup, I just don't know what to expect from this group. But what I do know is this year's team, I'm not going to doubt whether they're bought in, whether they're going to be focused, because this team is on a mission, and that's going to propel them through here. So offensively, there's nothing really special. Just do what you do. Run the ball, throw the ball. Just do what you've been doing. Play like you've been playing. Open up run lanes. Control the line of scrimmage. Be dynamic in how you spread the ball around. Find different, attack space. Don't force it to different players. Attack space, take space that's there. Be patient. That's the cornerstones of what Vanderbilt's offense has been, and that's why they've been successful. So really, it just comes down to just keep executing. Just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be just fine. So that's noted, right? So what are your thoughts on the 9-game schedule? What are your thoughts of going to the Swamp? What are your thoughts of kicking off this whole 9-game block with 5 conference road games? How do you feel about 2 of those being at Auburn and at Mississippi State? How do you feel about going to the Swamp? How do you feel about going to Athens? How do you feel about the home slate? It's only 4 games, but it's 4 strong home games. How do you feel about this conference slate? Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about Bryson Barnes? Do you feel like they can control him offensively? Just give me your thoughts. All right. Give me your thoughts on the show. Like, subscribe, come back, tell a friend, bring a friend, and we'll catch you back here next time. Locked on Vandy on the Locked On Podcast Network. Anchor down. Peace.